Hello everyone. In this video lecture, we're going to be looking at lines 1189 to 1296 of the play Oedipus Tyrannus. That might seem like it's a fairly contracted 100-line segment. However, it may be the single most important segment of the play, as we have all those tragic aspects of the recognition and the reversal being mediated to us through these roughly 100 lines. And Sophocles very much intentionally leaves this spectacle of suffering off stage. It's reported to us by an observer who has actually witnessed Oedipus coming upon his dead wife and putting out his eyes, and the litany of horror that he describes. We'll be looking at three things in our close reading, our analysis of these roughly 100 lines. First, the application of Aristotle's concepts of recognition and reversal. So recognition being that moment inside a tragedy, according to Aristotle, when the character comes face to face with the damning truth, this horrible reality that upends his understanding of the world, and so that he understands his place, or his real place, in it. And the reversal. We've had a number of different kinds of reversals throughout the play. The reversals of expectations, for instance, when the Corinthian messenger comes to alleviate Oedipus's horror, but only exacerbates it further. Here, we have the actual Aristotelian reversal of fortunes, wherein Oedipus moves from a position of success or apparent success to a position of abjection, horror, and loss. Then we'll move into a discussion of the corpse and its concluding observations on the nature of fate and fortune. From there, we'll actually analyze the emotional effect of Oedipus's blinding scene. Throughout this course, we've said that our ultimate objective, in anticipation of the English exit exam and the like, is to identify the arguments that stories make, the ideas that they present, and how they comment on certain issues, whether it be leadership, how to live a good life, hunger crisis, all manner of things. Here, we're going to be looking at this text based on emotion. What kind of emotion it provokes and the techniques that Sophocles uses in this play in order to actually affect that provocation. Stories are not just relevant because of the ideas that they can convey to us. They're not just important because it is in stories that we find those fundamental truths of the human condition that drive us, and answers to those questions that actually make life worth living. What is the good life? How do I live it? How do I obtain it? What is worthy of living for, and what is worthy of dying for? Is there a God? Is there meaning? All of these questions are things that we explore in our stories, but all of them are human questions. And as a result, they don't just exist in some sort of academic and objective field. They're deeply bound up in our quality of feeling, our ability to empathize with other human beings, and to experience our own rich emotional lives. Here, this play presents us with both realities, that our stories are not just to present ideas. I could do that to you directly, but to make those ideas palpable and real by instantiating them in narrative, by reminding us that all these questions that we ask are not purely academic. They're not just the subject of essays that we write, but they're the product of human suffering, pain, joys, and sorrows alike. And their answers provoke those feelings as well. So feeling an idea, argument, and emotion are all yoked together, bound together in our appreciation of the human condition and the way in which our stories convey that appreciation and allow for it. Even though we've been focusing on, well, theme, the way in which narrative conveys argument, here we don't want to lose sight of the reality that they're not just academic abstractions. They're human stories and human meanings to be derived. And that's what we'll be looking at in conjunction as we examine the spectacle of sublimity in Oedipus's suffering. How Sophocles tries to present to us a grounded yet transcendent experience that brings us outside of the norm and projects us into a realm of emotion that is beyond what we understand and what we experience, as he attempts to effect, in Aristotle's terms, catharsis, the purgation of negative emotions. Oedipus recognizes that he has been blind for his entire life. Even though he prided himself on wisdom, he truly was the one who could not see. So in line 1183, Oedipus looks upon the herdsman and says, "Oh, oh, it all comes clear. Light, let me look at you one last time. I am exposed." So the man who was never in the light, always living in darkness, concealed in the darkness because he couldn't see and no one could actually see who he was. I am exposed. Born to forbidden parents, joined in forbidden marriage, I brought forbidden death. And Oedipus rushes through the great doors, and the herdsman leaves to the right, and the Corinthian to the left. Everyone has broken apart. In the fifth chorus, the fourth stasimon, the chorus offers a reflection on the status of great men. It seems to be a conclusion about the dichotomy and the radical dismissal of the human state. So human beings really aren't of any value, and he looks at the status of even the greatest of us and recognizes their impotence. Oh, what a wretched breed we mortals are! Our lives add up to nothing. Does anyone at all, harvest more of happiness than a vacant image, and from that image fall away? Can any of us ever have anything but the pale shadow of happiness in our lives? Fleeting and, well, the shadow of the truth, something that has no light to it, mere darkness. There is nothing substantial, nothing of form, nothing of light, nothing of true happiness or true brightness in any of the joys that we think that we experience. And from that image fall away. You are my pattern, your fortune is mine, you, or Oedipus, your misery teaches me to call no mortal blessed. So he looks at Oedipus, the greatest man that he could ever conceive, and he says, you, Oedipus, you are my pattern, your fortune is mine. Now I'll learn from the lesson of the great man who realizes that his life was a blasphemous joke, a farce, a nihilistic, pointless facade that covered over the truth of his identity and the truth of the horror of his reality. I now know that I can never call any man blessed, because I'll never know if they might end up like you, Oedipus. You were great among us all, and you were reduced to nothing. And in reality, you were a criminal and a contagion, a blasphemer against the laws of the gods, and we didn't even know it. So I can never call a man good or blessed. Antistrophe A. And of course, that captures the great truth of the human condition recorded in tragedy. That in tragedy, it's good to die young, a terrible thing to die old, because you'll have seen more of the sorrow and grief that passes under the sun. And the best of all is to have never been born. Woe to Oedipus, the chorus is implying, that your father did not successfully kill you when you were first born. Antistrophe A takes the generalized comment on humankind, what a wretched breed we mortals are, our lives add up to nothing, and applies it specifically to Oedipus, exploring that idea of him being the pattern, the mirror to the human condition. You aimed your arrow high and struck happiness, you self-made Lord of Joy. That was what Oedipus says. Here I am, famous Oedipus. I wrested my kingship from the hands of fate. I made myself what I am. And he was caught between those, do I have the gods to thank for my success? I do. But he also seemed to imply the exact opposite, that I will determine our success. I will do everything, but it's the gods that will determine our success or our failure. So he was caught between those two conflicting positions. And now, Antistrophe A seems to mock him for that. You made yourself, you self-made Lord of Joy. Zeus knows when you killed the snag-clawed maiden, the riddling sphinx, then between death and my land there rose a fortress, and it was you. For that we call you king, our king of highest glory, Lord of mighty Thebes. Now is there a sadder story to be heard? Madness so cruel, pain so deep. You have shared your home with catastrophe, O Oedipus, when a harbor served you as a child, and as a father sailing into marriage. So he's taken that image earlier on of this nation as a ship that Oedipus has his hand upon the wheel of, that he is guiding that nation into calamity in order to shepherd it safely through the storm. And now he says, you, as the great master of our city, the great ship, you sailed into a marriage as a father and a son. Oh, how long could the field your father plowed bear you in silence? Antistrophe B then picks up on the image of marriage. Time found you out, all-seeing, and brought you to the judgment you can't bear. This marriage is not a marriage wherein the maker of children is a child. O child of Laius, I wish I had never seen you. I mourn you above all others, crying out, truly you gave me breath, and now, through you, I close my eyes in sleep. You gave me breath, you gave me hope, you gave me life. You inspired life into this city when we needed you most. We, as the voice of the common man, the chorus, proclaim you. But in the same way that you brought us life, so too are you the bringer of death. The chorus captures the fundamental nature of Oedipus here, recognizing that he is savior and disease, life and death, all bound up into one. in this complex, irreducible nature of his identity. It's a question that can never be really answered. The question that he set out to prove, and the question that began this text. Right? Remember the riddle of the Sphinx. What was its answer? The answer is man. And the answer that Oedipus is looking for here is the answer of the identity of a man. And yet that identity, even though he knows he is, well, the killer of Laius, the killer of his father, that identity never coalesces because he is all these disparate, diverse, and contradictory things. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the end of this text. But it's a revelation of the illimitable gulf of complexity that lies within all human beings and our identities. None of us is reducible down to one type or figure. But he is also life and death. You have reminded me, Oedipus, the chorus seems to imply here, our lives are meaningless and short. And in the end, we can never know whether that life was successful. It's only for people who judge us after we die to make that determination, whether we were good or evil, great or poor. We can never know until that last day. In the next video lecture, we're going to reflect on Oedipus's sorrow and the description of the blinding scene of Oedipus, the climactic moment of suffering.